Hello, and welcome to the show. This is Emotional Badass, where Moxie meets mindful. I'm Nikki Eisenhower, your host, life coach, and psychotherapist. And on today's episode, we are discussing guided intuitive soul care, boundaries in dysfunctional relationships. This episode is a crash course in my full course, Guided Intuitive Soul Care, Boundaries in Dysfunctional Relationships. Available October 22nd. It's a 4-week course where we will re-engineer what we know about boundaries, soul care, people-pleasing, and stepping up for ourselves. By the end of this guided course, we will disassemble the shame and guilt monsters and disarm feeling controlled by guilt and fear and obligation. I've created this course so that we can be guided on how to let go of the heartache and anger cycles of wishing and hoping people will change, and how to realize and recognize when they won't, so that you can gain more energy and stop the emotional exhaustion cycles so that you can heal and thrive. This course is designed to strengthen your intuition, to help you feel more confident about the difference between intuition and anxiety, so that you have an inner guide that you can trust. Each week has a theme. We will meet for 4 weeks. And we're going to cover in the first week, safety, how to be truly safe with yourself. I know a lot of you resist this work because you're scared of being triggered. You don't need to resist that work. This course is designed for you if that is your fear. We're going to discuss how our systems in our lives, from our families to our work to our friendships, operate like a band, and we're trying to get harmony as the sound that band creates. And boundaries work is what we need to figure out what to do in our lives when the bands that we play in make really awful music. We're going to go over the nuance of wounding and healing. So many of us are carrying around such woundedness that we're so scared to approach our healing. I touched on some of it in the most recent episode released to patrons on Patreon, where I talk about the sexual education that I received from the Catholic Church in New Orleans when I was in about 5th grade, and how important it was to look at those messages, especially as a sexual abuse survivor, to be able to understand our messaging helps us understand what we need to heal and how to create our healing path to get where we want to go. I'm going to teach you about how to get this knowledge from your head into your heart as we integrate intuitive soul care into our bodies, our psyches, our being. It's a hard thing to figure out how to name, so I might be naming something that you've been trying to figure out for a long time right now. Because I know so many of you have done so much reading and so much following and so much podcast listening, but that's head knowledge. And you're struggling to get that head knowledge from up here in your head. I have my fingers on my head right now. From up here in your head to down into your body, your being, your heart. So we're going to talk about how to do that for yourself in a mindful way. In week 2, I call it boundaries, 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 boundaries. That's the week topic. We're going to talk about the difference between leaning into stretching and easing away from pain. If you're a yoga practitioner, you'll hear that language because we do that in yoga with the body. We know the feeling of a deep, good hamstring stretch, right? It feels good. It's deep. It's a little bit uncomfortable, but it feels good uncomfortable. And we learn how to meet ourselves right in that space of growth, of stretching, without ripping or tearing. So we learn how to ease away from physical pain that way. So I'm going to talk to you and teach you through this course, through activities and through live webinars each week, to show you how to incorporate that concept into your being. We talk about communication, and I have some videos for you to watch and laugh with to learn some of these communicative concepts. A lot of what we're struggling with right now is we're calling a lot communication that isn't communication. Defending, screaming at each other, trying to talk while we're triggered. Not communication, y'all. So we're going to talk about how to figure out when we're actually communicating and when we're sort of flailing. Arguing on social media is not communication. Learning true communication will help you spot the differences when people are defending or triggered. Learning the differences will help you be less frustrated, less overwhelmed, will help you feel less shut down with social media, news, politics, all of it. I'm going to introduce you to the character Bob, and he's going to help us learn about boundaries because Bob doesn't have any. You hear me say boundaries a lot on the show or if you work with me individually. Boundaries are so important because we have to learn how to keep good things in, and we have to learn how to keep bad things out, and then we have to deal with everything that's in the gray. So we can't just build boundary walls. We build boundary walls for reasons. So I also don't want you to just knock down all of your walls. You built those walls for a reason. We need to learn which boundaries need to come down to a half wall. We need to be able to let things in, and we need to be able to let things out. Some of our walls need to be re-engineered to add a window and a door. When we've been hurt and traumatized, if we're highly sensitive, we've been sort of browbeaten with what's wrong with us because we are the sensitive people in the world. The smartest thing we can do, the best thing we can figure out what to do for ourselves is to build really strong, tall walls. That's what happens when we're really smart and we don't get an elementary school education in boundaries. This course is going to help us identify which walls need to be stronger and built up and which walls need to come down, either a little bit or all the way. In week 3, our theme is proactive empowerment. So after learning about boundaries, we're going to learn about our expectations and how our expectations of ourselves and other people set us up for self-sabotage in the boundaries department. We're going to come to understand in an intuitive way how hope is a really important element for us as HSPs to have some boundaries with. If we are giving endless hope to hopeless situations, we are responsible for our own drain and exhaustion. And we have to learn how to manage that hope within us. And then we have to learn how to manage the guilt that comes from not giving endless hope to a hopeless situation. So maybe you can hear how multi-layered this soul care is and why I'm excited to guide you through it. This course will change your relationship with triggers. I know so many of you, and it's so understandable, hate your triggers, resist that they're there, don't want them to be there from your perspective, from inside of your body. Triggers feel like unfair torture. Everyone else is living their lives kind of trigger-free in a sense. And here we are bogged down with these triggers that we have to wade through and work through and get through. And they're exhausting. They don't have to be so exhausting moving forward. I offer you a visual boundaries experience that is unlike anything else that I know in existence. It is something that I started creating about 2 years ago because I realized the more areas of your brain, the more senses that I could hit for you in healing, the more fully, the more quickly, the more deeply healing occurs. So I've created some visual exercises, some even musical exercises in this course workbook to help tap into the power as a highly sensitive person of your senses to be able to speed and deepen your healing. There are 91 actionable soul care tips in this course workbook. That list of 91 actionable soul care tips is its own separate little bitty mini course So it's a way that you're almost getting 2 little courses in one from me in this bigger course. And it's really important to me that you hear and integrate that soul care is actionable in your everyday life. I see a lot of people compartmentalizing their soul care, just like meditating. I see people who meditate and they have a strong meditation practice, but the second that they're done meditating, they kind of go right back into frantic mode. Speedy, 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 go, go, go. World needs everything from me. I'm on mode. I call it soul care instead of self-care to try to highlight that we need to not compartmentalize our self-care in that way. And we need to learn how to bring those soul care elements like meditation. We need to learn how to integrate that into who we are. If you were abused or neglected emotionally, physically, or sexually as a child, this integration of soul care is particularly important and may be the element you've been missing if you've been on the healing road a long time. We are prone with that kind of childhood to compartmentalize because if our abusers are known to us, it is very difficult for an adult. It's difficult, if not impossible, for a child to hold the multiple truths of, I love this person loves me in one hand, and the oppositional truth of this person violates me and harms me in the other hand. So we learn at a very deep subconscious level how to separate important concepts. That very thing that saved us, that made us able to survive our childhoods with that compartmentalization. If we don't heal that up, because we don't need to compartmentalize that if we're not being harmed. Do you see that? So that safety compartmentalization that we learned, it follows us through life. And many of us, because healing is an art form, and being a healer is an art form, to me, less than a clinical process, is that right there. It is the art form of how do we then go away from that strong compartmentalization to integrate our healing so that we're not compartmentalizing our healing. I'm super excited to teach that in this course. In week 4, our theme is I am my advocate. Each of us walking the earth, we are our own advocates. Yes, when you hear me speak, when I produce another episode of this show, I am advocating for you. I am advocating for highly sensitive people as a tribe, but I am advocating for myself, and you have to advocate for yourselves in your world, in your own mind first, and then with the world. It's really easy to believe that boundaries are sort of this hand on the hip, me wagging my finger in somebody's face saying, this is my line and you can't cross it. And when you cross it, there are consequences. That's sort of a news, entertainment, movie, sort of crappy representation of what boundaries really are. That's a very, very small part of boundaries. Most of our boundaries have to be with ourselves. We have to know what we're willing to do, what we're not willing to do, what we're willing to put up with, and what we're not willing to put up with. We have to find those lines within ourselves to become our own healthy advocate. A lot of I'm going to call it screaming in issue advocacy that we're seeing online and in American politics and such right now on social media, that's why so much of it feels so problematic to many of you. There's a lot of good stuff that's happening out there, but there's a lot that's problematic. And I know y'all are feeling that because you're talking to me about it. And you're struggling with the stress of it and the weight of it. The reason that feels the way that it feels is often because people who are advocating for these issues and these others haven't really figured out what self-advocacy is yet to get their issues with themselves, their healing with themselves, kind of right with themselves in the world first, to be able to then branch out to these larger advocacy callings. So I'm a huge advocate of learning how to be your own advocate. In week 4, we will talk about measurable and specific boundary setting. A lot of us shoot ourselves in the foot accidentally because we look at someone that we love and we say, hey, I want your support. And they get very upset because they look at us and they go, I'm supporting you. What do you want? And we have fights and we have arguments. We have to learn what it is to get more specific about our requests, and then able to communicate that request first to ourselves and then to the person that we're making the request to. It is much more effective if I can figure out that the support that I need in any given moment is a hug. And I am so much more successfully advocating for myself if I can look at my partner and said, hey, you know what I could use right now? A hug. They are so much more likely to look at me and say, a hug? I can give you a hug. Come here. Here's your hug. And that sounds wildly simple when you hear me say it that way, doesn't it? But it's very hard to learn how to get there from a triggered, upset, depleted, exhausted place. So I'm going to walk you through how to figure out and give you a script to help you figure out on your own long after the course is done, how to figure out how to advocate for yourself in this measurable and specific way that I'm naming. In each week, I'm showing up at least twice with live webinars. And this course is set up to where you can absolutely participate in my timeline. You can also participate in your own timeline using your own healer to work through it at your pace. The course is only 4 weeks, but the course will be open to you for a year. So you can revisit, you can fine tune. When life gets messy, you can come back to it and really incorporate this work into your being. I promise you, from my own place of boundaries work and helping other people get to their boundaries work, that the key is learning how to integrate this work into who we are. And when we do, it gets easier. And what I want for you and everyone is this mental health, this wellness stuff, this path to peace and fulfillment. I want it to be as easy and accessible as possible. And that's why I've created this course. This is how this course works, y'all. There's digital software that I have mindfully chosen with a tech person because I am not a techie person. And I know many HSPs aren't. Why? We can't really feel out technology. They don't give us any feeling cues. There's no human energy for me to read from my computer. So lots of us struggle with tech. So this is a very user-friendly option that I've figured out. So all you have to do is get on my website, sign up. You will get an email and you will click on a thing and you will come into the course. Each week, the content will be dripped out to you, so you don't get all of it all at once. You get a little bit at a time, and you can log in and off as you want to. There's no way I can do anything like this unless it's user-friendly and for people who don't understand technology, because I am of that tribe. The lessons will be there for you in the course, as will the live webinars that will be recorded and saved there. I believe archived is the right techie word, so that you can rewatch, revisit, or come to it at your own time. There's also an option in this course. You do not have to participate in this option, but there is an option where you guys can discuss with each other in each lesson and have a little bit of a community aspect for what you're learning. There are opportunities for you to ask the questions that come up for you in each lesson so that I have an opportunity to answer your questions as they come up in each live webinar. In addition to the course, for every participant, every person who signs up for the course, your name will go in a hat. And I'm giving away 3 separate individual sessions. So you're likely to win a free session with me from the course. The course has 14 activities, 8+ live stream webinars, handouts you can print if you want printables, and I will announce the winners of the 3 individual sessions at the very last live webinar in the course. All of this will be available to you, located in the course hub that you can easily access for the next year. I've worked really hard to figure out techie things to be able to offer some payment plans for this course. If you pay in full before October 22nd, you can use coupon code IAMREADY to save. If you need a 3-month or a 6-month payment plan, I've figured out the tech to offer that. So thank you so much. Boundaries work is so important. It is the foundation for feeling safe, secure in relationships, to getting our needs met, and to taking care of our mental health, our physical health, and our emotional health. We are all struggling with this because our education does not address boundaries. I hope to see you in the course to have your sweet energy. Come find it at NikkiEisenhauer.com. My last name is Eisenhauer. Nikki is Nikki. Come find me. If you'd like to be a producer and support the show, come find us at patreon.com/emotionalbadass. You make the show possible. You are also paying for these shows to remain annoying commercial free. So thank you for that. The most important thing to having a successful podcast and to getting it out to more people in the world is those 5-star iTunes reviews. Those of you who have already gotten on, thank you so much. The comments are so sweet and encouraging and kind and are helping other people find the show. So if you haven't already, please take a moment to go to iTunes and give us a 5-star review. We appreciate it so much. Having boundaries is the definition of what it takes to be a badass. I'm Nikki Eisenhauer. This is Emotional Badass, where Moxie meets mindful. Take care of yourselves. Till next time. Bye-bye.